the story of the most expensive wristwatch ever sold at auction, and the man who turned it into a legend. After several seasons in Geneva and Hong Kong, the Phillips auction house finally brought rare timepieces to New York, making an immediate splash. The flagship of the first New York auction was the Rolex Paul Newman Daytona Ref. 6239, previously owned by none other than the man who unintentionally made this model famous, Hollywood actor Paul Newman. Newman's personal Rolex Daytona sold for a staggering $17,752,000, making it the most expensive wristwatch ever auctioned. This naturally begs the question, what is the story behind this watch, and who was Paul Newman, the man who made it famous? The story of this watch begins in 1969 during the filming of Winning. The filming process so captivated Newman that he carried his passion for high speeds into his real life, becoming a race car driver at nearly 50 years old. Newman's co-star in the film was his wife, Joanne Woodward, who gifted him the Daytona. Joanne, a woman of exquisite taste, likely purchased a watch at Tiffany & Co. on Fifth Avenue. This is supported by the inventory numbers hand-engraved on the back of the strap attachments. The case back also bears another engraving ordered by Joanne. The touching and concise warning, "Drive carefully, ME," reveals her well-founded concerns. In 1965, Newman had been in a motorcycle accident that seriously injured his left hand, requiring a skin graft. This Daytona would faithfully serve its owner, tracking his achievements on the racetrack. Newman was so confident in his watch's accuracy that he would often bet with friends on whose watch kept better time. These bets usually ended with a call to the time service, after which the actor happily collected his winnings. In 1984, Joanne gifted her husband another Rolex Daytona, this time a classic ref, 6263 with a black dial. What happened to her first gift remained one of the greatest horological mysteries of the 20th century, until James Cox revealed the story involving Paul Newman and his daughter, Eleanor Nell Newman. Despite her famous father, Nell was the typical girl next door. Modest by nature, she never flaunted her relationship to Paul Newman, and even used a kind of creative pseudonym during college, Nell Potts, Potts being her mother's maiden name, according to some sources. In the fall of 1983, Nell began dating James Cox. At a college party, Nell brought along a salad dressing made by her father's company, Newman's Own. Looking at the face on the label, Newman's Own products were decorated with photos of Paul Newman in various costumes. James told Nell about a chance childhood encounter with the man. While watching a race at the Lime Rock track in Connecticut, young James stood behind a rope barrier, trying to capture not just the cars but also the drivers. One of the passing drivers noticed the boy and motioned for him to step onto the track for a better shot. The driver introduced himself as Paul Newman. James and Nell's relationship lasted nearly 10 years, during which James Cox became a part of the Newman family. In the summer of 1984, he was staying at the Newman's home in Westport, where he offered to help rebuild it. As Nell Newman wrote in a letter accompanying the watch at auction, Dad often came down to the riverbank to check on how James was doing. During one of these visits, Newman asked James for the time. Apparently, the actor had forgotten to wind his watch that morning. James didn't have a watch at all, so Newman handed him his Rolex, saying, "If you wind it every day, it'll tell you the exact time." The actor, racer, and businessman, after playing race car driver Frank Capua in the aforementioned film Winning, Paul Newman became hooked on racing, even though he was already over 40 at the time. Newman approached racing with the same disciplined determination that he brought to honing his acting skills, and soon, that methodical approach paid off. In 1972, Newman entered his first real race at the age of 46, won his first major championship, the Sports Car Club of America. His professional career highlights include second place at the iconic 24 Hours of Le Mans, 1979, and first place in the team category at the 24 Hours of Daytona, 1995. Astonishingly, Newman claimed his last track victory at the age of 70. After retiring from racing, Paul Newman managed several racing teams that competed at the highest level. Newman's teams won 8 national titles and achieved a total of 108 victories, an impressive feat given that Newman began his racing career relatively late in life. In a 2002 interview with the New York Times, Newman said of himself, "I have no grace. I was a sloppy skier, a sloppy tennis player, a sloppy football player. The only thing I ever mastered with grace was automobile racing." Newman was also known as a businessman and philanthropist. In 1982, he co-founded a company with A. Hotchner that produced sauces, spaghetti, popcorn, and other food products. What began as a joke, Newman making sauce for his friends, grew into a major charitable initiative. Almost all of Newman's own profits after taxes go to charitable organizations, including the Paul Newman Foundation, which provides assistance in 31 countries worldwide. Another project close to Newman's heart was the Hole in the Wall Children's Camp, founded by the actor in 1988. Every summer, the camp hosts over 1,000 children aged 7 to 15 who are battling cancer, sickle cell anemia, HIV/AIDS, hemophilia, and other life-threatening diseases. The camp offers free medical care, funded by private donations and contributions from various charitable foundations.